Hey, True Story Gringo Loco fans. We got a real treat for you tonight. I finally got him. So we're going to start off with a little piece of an interview I did when I finally caught up with him on Zoom. And then we'll listen to his final, the shortest podcast of them all, the final audio that he shared with me. And then we'll finish up with the end of the interview, just to find out where he is now and how he's been doing. Enjoy.
So yeah, whatever you want to do.
Dude, I'm recording. This is exciting. We got Gringo Loco on the screen.
Yeah, man. It's been a long time. It's really good to be here. I appreciate it. Thank you for everything. You know, nothing would be possible if it wasn't for you and everybody listening. I appreciate it also. Thank you so much.
Well, let's hope that 5 people listening turn into 500, 5,000. You've got quite a story, man.
5 million.
5 million?
Yeah.
I mean, what a surprise the day that the stories fell in my lap, and little by little it was just, when can you remember when we met, right around the time we met? Do you have any recollection? I know it's 2002.
It was so long ago, you've been such a good friend for so long, and it's been such a long time since I've seen your face, and here we are talking to each other. It's really a miracle, man.
Something else.
Yeah,
dude.
You look really good, man.
Yeah, thanks. You too. You're still a rock star.
Yeah, in my own mind. Yeah.
So you're in Mexico City.
Man?
You're in Mexico City, married, and 2 kids at home with you.
I got 3 kids. And I've been here, more than 20 years, and been blessed to be with the same lady for, about 20 years now. And so, here I am.
I remember meeting you because we lived in that little, not little. I mean, from what I heard, it was like ex-tenement housing that had been done up a little bit. But even before that, it was like some viceroy's place, but it was old. No, and they had all these little apartments around.
Yeah,
man. Had that
it
cool
was great.
house.
We're all living there together.
Yeah, and that was like, in Mexico, everything was about family, but we had neighbors, right? How cool was that?
Yeah, and really, they're still friends today, and it was really a really good experience for us to be all living there together in that complex. We all had our little apartments, and it was a lifetime ago,
Yeah, in my mind, you had been there forever because I'm older than you were then now, but I thought you were like the older neighbor guy, and you had been there forever, but you'd probably only been in Mexico a few years by then, no?
At that time, yeah, just starting this adventure,
Can you tell me, just since I'm going to tie this interview into the last episode. And the last episode is the shortest one, and you're talking about, you came to Mexico. So can you tell us a little bit about what brought you to Mexico to stay? I know you've been before, and you talked about the north a little bit, but what made you stay in the end?
The people, the country, and the fact that I met a special lady that, took me from one place to another here in Mexico. And, we talked about having kids, and that just completely changed my life. And of course, starting with 1, and, I got 3, and, coming to Mexico was just to start a new beginning.
Yeah. So was there any specific, it's funny that in that complex, once my roommate and I arrived, there were 4, well, no, more than 4, but there were 4 kind of gringo, Canadian, American foreigners. I think there was a Spaniard somewhere along the way. But we always kind of had the idea that the other guy was running from the law. And you were, it's not like you didn't talk, but you never said anything about anything, right? You're always fun to be around. So what was it?
Yeah, I'm still that way today.
Was it to start anew because you were afraid of what you were leaving behind, or was it to start anew just because it was time?
it was time, and for those of you who have been following my book, you get a gist of what my life was like before Mexico when I was in the USA. And I just wanted to break from all of that and get away from all that. And just like in the movies, go to Mexico, right? And, I didn't know if I'd last, I was thinking maybe I'd last the weekend here and then go somewhere else, but it's been a long weekend, man. It's been over 20 years and it's been a hell of a ride. And, with Corona kind of shutting down the planet and, work is difficult. And without work, I found the time to write this book and tell the story. And I never thought I'd do it because I'm not one to say anything about anything. And, just talking to you now, it's like pulling teeth. I get it, man. And it's been 40 years since all this shit happened, so it's a miracle that I wrote 500 pages. I could remember what happened 40 years ago, a little bit more. We're hitting almost half a century ago. So, all these people, obviously myself and the people that I've mentioned, and I'm trying to, protect. I mentioned I have kids, and obviously I'm trying to protect my family, my kids, and what little reputation I have. But at the same time, I wrote the book, the cat's out of the bag, it's there. And, out of the bad things can come some good. For example, with Corona, losing work like everybody else, it's very difficult. It has been since 2019. We're in 2021. And so I found the time to write this book and have the balls to do it. And, I'm just putting it out there. It's, the book is called True Story with a question mark. So, you can question all you want, and I don't care either way. I think it's a really good book, a really good story. It should turn into, it's not even a book yet. I'm hoping it turns into a book, and I would like to see it become a movie. I think it's worthy of that. But not to drift away from our conversation, talking about the apartments and all of us together. Here we are, a couple decades later, and Matt is just a miracle, and it's so cool to sit here in front of you. And you're the man that's keeping my dream alive. I want my dream to come true, and I hope this happens, man. I want to see this become a book, and we're starting with the listeners that we have tonight that are listening to us. And I really appreciate it, man. And I appreciate you more than anyone in the planet, for just being there like you've always been.
Well, yeah, since we'll turn this into a bit of a love fest. Why not, eh?
Yeah. Well, I'm a hippie from the 60s. Peace and love, from San Francisco. What do you want from me, man?
Well, no, but I mean, I say that facetiously because I wanted to express my appreciation for your trust in me and with this story.
Becky went before we did. She wanted to see her fiancé, the rancher, born and raised in Mexico, had asked her to marry him. She would do just that, get married and pregnant, to later have a beautiful baby boy. The ranch would be big enough and ready for us to live there in Baja California, La Paz, Mexico. It was just a matter of my bro and I not to talk the talk, but walk the walk. Not to talk about it, but do it. We thought to ourselves to make one last big deal, to make enough money real fast so that we would have sufficient funds to live on for the rest of our lives. Having connections with the Italian Mafia, Mexican cartel, Crips, Bloods, Hell's Angels, and some of the other biggest gangs in California, if not the world. It was time to go to work one last time, to make the biggest decision of our lives, to leave the United States of America, the USA, and go to Mexico to say goodbye to country, family, and friends, not to mention English. We didn't speak a word of Spanish. I failed that class in school. This was a lifetime away at the moment. We had a lot of work to do. The negotiation was flowing like butter. Business was good once again. Selling the green, white, and glass like the old days. Good times. My bro being a hacker amongst many things. Started with many big name companies, withdrawing money from them and transferring them into a special account. It's amazing what hackers can do with a few pushes of the button. It's like magic. How do they do it? After a few successful heists, all electronically done, never interacting with anyone, all done on his laptop. The last job was to be done from Home Depot for $1 million. For sure, this would throw up the red flag, and the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, would soon be involved. That's exactly what happened. And quick to the FBI. Doesn't mess around. Don't ever mess with these guys. You don't want to be on their most wanted list. I was busy with my people taking care of last time transactions, as was my bro with his gang, as the story goes. His friend was driving a van with half a dozen other members of the gang. A bunch of tweakers, tweaking hard at the time. My bro told them, I think we're being followed. I've noticed the same black car in front of us and behind, not to mention the helicopter above us. My bro then proceeded to throw his laptop out the window as the van was going 60 miles per hour on the freeway. Taking the chip out of the laptop and his cell phone as he threw them out the window too. Everyone in the van was freaking out and tweaking out on him, even more after he ate the chips in front of them like breakfast cereal, as he chewed like a piece of gum and swallowed the computer chips like candy. Everyone in the van yelling, "What are you doing? You just threw $1 million out the window and ate it. Also, you're tweaking, man. What's up with you?" As before, I think the FBI is on us. All thinking he was crazy at the moment. On the middle of the freeway, the van was blocked in by a black government car. Boxed in by the FBI in front, back, and both sides. 4 black cars had the van boxed in with an FBI helicopter hovering just above them. With weapons drawn, everyone in the van was placed under arrest for the gang of hackers' $1 million heist. Everyone had evidence on them except for my bro. Also, with my brother-in-law's father being the chief of police and his bass player's dad, the director of the FBI, both from San Francisco. My bro in court in front of the judge on his side, along with a dream team of lawyers. Also, nobody in the gang mentioning any names. There was insufficient evidence to be held on and was released of all charges for the time being. My bro and I chose at that moment, after getting away with all that we had done in our lifetimes, to stop partying and doing all this crazy business and live a good, clean, honest, hard-working life. We packed up my Mazda, small 2-door car, and started the adventure to Mexico. Not saying a word to anyone about it. Only Becky, who was waiting for us. We made it just beyond San Diego, then shortly after crossing the border at 3 o'clock in the morning. We found it strange because it was usually the other way around. People from Mexico going to the USA, not like us, vice versa. We had made it to Tijuana, Mexico, safe and sound. We were both happy to leave the BS in the USA and have a fresh new start in Mexico. We stayed in Tijuana, celebrating our newly found freedom, with no worries or hurries. For what seemed like a lifetime, we have had difficult lives. It was time to start living, worry-free, no more funny business. The two of us continued driving towards La Paz, Baja California. We got lost in the middle of nowhere and found ourselves being stopped by a dozen military Mexican soldiers with machine guns. They took us out of the car by gunpoint. I thought we were dead at that moment. As they searched us and the car, they told us that gringos come and go from Mexico with cocaine. We told them we're not involved with that kind of stuff. Neither of us speaking any Spanish. We were lucky that the commanding officer spoke pretty good English. After searching the car and only finding 2 suitcases filled with only clothes, we explained to the military our friend was getting married in La Paz, that we were going to the wedding, and we were lost, and that's why we were here in the middle of nowhere, off the beaten path. The military told us to follow them back to the main road that would lead us directly to La Paz, Baja California, Mexico. Becky's ranch was about an hour away. We made it safe and sound with open arms. Luis and Becky had a really big place, lots of land. It was filled with cows, chickens, donkeys, goats, ducks, horses, dogs, and cats. There was a place in the back of their house, as they were on the private property in front of the ocean. The water smooth as glass, peaceful, which is the meaning of La Paz. It was so beautiful. A lot of hard work laid ahead for me and my bro, who would later become ranchers. We found ourselves going to bed early, waking up early, staying out of trouble. We all woke up early to feed the animals at 5 o'clock in the morning, pump the water from the well to buckets that we would carry along with food, only to feed them first and then clean the stables. After taking care of the animals, also fruit and vegetables were on the farm. We had tractors, trucks, riding horses, feeding the animals. I was a cowboy, a rancher in Mexico. While starting life on Becky's ranch, my bro decided to get a place on the beach. So he and I lived together in a big house. It was amazing, with the sand, ocean at our footsteps. It was $100 a month. A pack of smokes, for example, Marlboros or Camels, were 8 pesos. That was equal to $1 at the time at 1998. Later, the peso would go to 20 pesos for a dollar in the year 2020. It's less expensive to live in Mexico. My bro and I continue to work at the ranch to keep busy and make money. An honest day's work for an honest day's pay. I got a job on a yacht, a very large, elegant boat, like the Love Boat, just smaller than a cruise liner. I was to work and to be a chef, take care of the passengers. Also, I was the bartender. I made a very nice drink, and I was a great cook. One thing led to another with one of the passengers and I. She was very beautiful. We fell in love on the ocean in Los Cabos, Cabo San Lucas, in Baja California, Mexico, with an incredible sunset and sunrise. Magical time was spent together on a boat for a week. Upon landing back on the docks from Cabo to La Paz, Baja California, Mexico, our adventure continued together for yet another week. She flew back and forth from Mexico City to visit me in La Paz, only to ask me to return with her, which I did, telling my bro, who said go for it. He returned to San Francisco as I went to Mexico City, Mexico. It was there that I found out who this lady was and where she came from. Remember, we met on the beach where everyone looks the same. You're in bikinis, shorts, swimsuits. Everyone is equal. No one looks rich or poor. Anyway, there's only about 5% of the people in Mexico that are rich. Obviously poor, middle class, like anywhere else in the world. But basically in Mexico, you're rich or poor. That's it. Her family was extremely rich. High class, Hollywood, right here in Mexico City. Lived in a mansion with bodyguards, chauffeurs, maids, butlers. I was impressed not only with their family, Dad being the accountant to the president of Mexico, Salinas, which is one of the biggest organizations in the country with Grupo Salinas. Also Miguel Alemán, married to her daughter. His dad was the president of Mexico. They named the freeway after him. Not to mention they own the biggest TV station and have the airlines. Also the Hard Rock Cafe. They were owners of them all. I found myself with the richest man in the world, Carlos Slim. I was in a circle, so amazing, so fast, surrounded by the most powerful people in Mexico. It's not what you know, but who you know that makes all the difference. It was someone like a fantasy that became my reality. Very elegant, high-class people with a lot of security. We got our own place together, had a beautiful boy, living in a nice apartment with a chauffeur and a maid. Also, she had her own business with employees. All in the same building, in front of the park. I became an English teacher and a model, also as an actor on TV. I was on billboards on the freeway, also doing commercials, soap operas, and magazines. I myself became Hollywood in Mexico. I also became an artist, later having an expo with Leonora Carrington. I was a great abstract artist, painting beautiful pictures as well as writing. I found myself writing lots of poetry and also books. I was very busy going to castings and teaching, also learning to be a father. My firstborn son made me a dad and changed my life forever. as did his mother and I. She went with the owner of one of the biggest pharmaceutical drug companies in Mexico and the world. They got married, raising my son in a world that, quite honestly, I could never give my child. And I wanted the best for him, as all parents do. It's a natural instinct. We all want the best for our children. They lived in a mansion only 15 minutes from my place near the park. I got my own 2-storied house with a huge garden. It was very beautiful, as were my neighbors. We all became best friends, and still are today. I would have my son every other weekend. It was great to be a part-time dad. It's only later that I would meet my truly everlasting love of my life, have a beautiful boy and girl, spending more than 20 years together. We are still together today with our wonderful children, living only 20 minutes away from my firstborn child, brothers and sisters to each other. I have 3 beautiful children, a beautiful wife, secretary to the first governor of Mexico, but later the president of Mexico, AMLO. She's a good church-going, Bible-reading lady, a wonderful mother to all my children. I love my children and my wife, who is best friends with my ex-wife, the mother of my firstborn, who I respect along with her man, taking care of my son. We all continue to see each other, always thinking what is the best thing to do for the children. They are the future. We need to take care of the next generation. That is the end of book number 5. Again, the book is a 500-page, 8-hour audio book. The name of the book is called True Story, written by Sean Balin, a man called Gringo Loco. I want to thank you for listening to my story. I appreciate it. Again, the name of the book is called True Story, written by Sean Balin. Thank you for listening.
Because at first, I was like, there's something here, but what do we do with it?
Yeah, man. I'm right there with you.
It's kind of raw, but it reminded me
It
of
is this foundation.
Yeah, it reminded me of like Catch Me If You Can, the movie, or what's the other one, the Chuck Berry story, where he was the host of the Gong Show, and the winners and the Newlywed Game, and the winners would go to like communist Russia, as a prize. And so the backstory is he was a CIA assassin. So that's why he would take them as their chaperone. And then he'd take care of a hit for the government. Now it's another kind of true story.
Nice.
I think it's called Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. So I'm seeing like these kinds of stories and how they're glamorized for Hollywood. And I'm like, this is that version. And because I consume so much kind of TV and movies that I could just totally see it. But I don't. Hopefully, we'll find a way to.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad to see it too.
Just to cycle back to the Love Fest, I appreciate you trusting me with your story and reaching out, because I've had so much fun with it. It's been way more fun than my day job, I'll tell you. And maybe nothing comes of it. But I learned how to edit sound and make videos, and so it's all been fun. Okay, well, let me get back to you. You're amazing. Let me ask more about you though, because your story starts in San Francisco, but it really starts. You talk about where your parents were before you were born and the circumstances in which they met. But who is this dad of yours? Your dad was a superhero, man, from the way you tell it. And that's one of those things, one of those few things, one of those glimpses into your life you gave us when we knew you back in the day was a bit about you know, the different things that your dad did. So can you tell us a little bit more about your dad, what you remember about him, some of his accomplishments and the
Yeah.
impact he had on your life?
Yeah, of course. You know, my dad was a captain, a Navy SEAL, and also the inventor of the bicycle helmet, the one size fits all helmet, to make it official. And he did marathons, triathlons, and also a medical doctor, an MD, and an acupuncturist. And starting in the 70s, you know, is basically when that started in the US. So, you know, he was quite different than many of the other doctors. And with acupuncture, it took him over more so than being an MD, and started his own practice. And yeah, I remember when we went. Well, anyway, he had a practice on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge, which is Marin County, Sausalito, and broke away from working in the hospital because being different, like I guess I am as well, in my own way. He was in his, and yeah, you know, my dad, a very strong, big man, and being a doctor, and it was a great way to grow up, being surrounded by education, and it's so important in our lives. Yeah.
Well, tell me, when your parents split, you went with mom and a sister. What was the relationship
Exactly.
like with your dad? I mean, from then, I mean, because of the way you tell your story, we're never really sure how long it is between this and that. So when
Right.
your dad mom split, how long was it from then until you found out that he had passed away when you were in Hawaii?
Well, you know, that's why I mentioned Sausalito. That's where my father went. And so we stayed in San Francisco. And let's see, with my father passing, that wasn't until many years later when I actually went from San Francisco to Hawaii. And that's another interesting story in our true story. And you'll have to listen to that episode and check that out.
Yeah, we have. But
yeah, you know,
how much
I
contact
remember
did you have
in
with your
Hawaii.
dad? Sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
You know, on the weekends, I would see him, you know, one weekend yes, one weekend no.
And what kind of things did you do, like when you were still young, when you were with him?
Well, as when I would go visit, you know, we would hang out. And I remember going, getting ice cream, and, you know, going different places, going to the zoos, the museums, and, you know, going in Marin County, and then again back to San Francisco, and having our little adventures together over the weekends.
So you had a strong relationship, even though you weren't living with him anymore.
Yeah, you know, strong, I don't know if I would use that word, but, you know, a definite relationship, as many divorced kids go through. And, you know, we do the best we can on both sides. So now I totally understand because, well, I've been through that myself. So, but yeah, you know, one weekend yes, one weekend no. And so a couple times a month, and we kept ourselves together. And yeah.
So as you got older, you got into some, how can we put it? You ventured into business in the illicit economy, right? And was there a point,
I would say that.
was there a point where your dad
What's
knew what was going on with you at all, or, you know, the kind of ways you made your money, or at any point along the way?
Well, you know, always working and having a couple jobs, you know, that would account for my money. Yeah, I was working I had 3 jobs when I was 15 years old, and always kept up at least a couple jobs, and that would account for the money that I had. And I started at 15 years old doing all this stuff that I got into, and along with all these big name people, we were all just teenagers getting started, and I'll do the best I can to, remember that stuff. And it was a miracle. I wrote 500 pages of this stuff. So if anything, I'll make a reference back to my book on what we're talking about. But anyway,
well, I mean,
so,
yeah, you can. Well,
yeah.
I guess,
I'm trying to, have, I don't want to incriminate myself or anyone around me, but again, it was 40 years ago, man. So, but yeah, I'm open-minded, and, just keep plugging away, pulling my teeth, and ask me questions. I'll do my best I can to answer,
Okay, let me try a different way. Did your mother and father ever know that you were arrested, besides for blowing up a school and skateboarding above the limit? But when it came,
No.
they never found out about anything. Like, even when you were falsely accused of breaking into or stealing from the convenience store, they never knew you were in jail?
Yeah, that was that everybody knew about. Yeah, good times. Yeah, because I was actually living, well, my brother and I got the front apartment of my dad's houseboat, because he had a houseboat in Sausalito. So you think on the Golden Gate Bridge, we had the house on one side in San Francisco and the houseboat on the other, So there were 7 apartment buildings, 10 doctor's offices, a ballroom. It was really huge, man. I remember buying this huge houseboat when it was just a barge where they would bring the garbage from San Francisco to Marin County. And it's unbelievable, it started out that way. Now it's the most elegant, rich place in the world and most beautiful to live in. But yeah, my dad gave us a deal for 1 year that we would live in the very first apartment. So it was the closest to the beach, because the houseboat went out obviously into the ocean. So there, I was there for a year. The year ended. We were had to go. My bro went back to San Francisco, and I stayed behind. And that's actually kind of where I was on the verge of being homeless, which I'd been a few times. But I had a place to rent, and I was working at this store. And I remember things were going well. And then they came looking for me, because I got a place to rent right next door to my dad's place. Was a huge houseboat with a few apartments, and I got a room. I had a room. I was working at this place. It's the only store there. So I would close up the place at night, open it in the morning. So I had the keys, put the money in the safe, and anyway, I had a lot of responsibility. So I'm cleaning the windows and cleaning the register like I always do before, and sweeping and mopping the floor. Close up at night. I go home. The cops wake me up. They drag me to jail, and they say that I was under arrest because I robbed the store where I was working. I broke the window. They had fingerprints, and I'm like, hello, I cleaned the window. That's my job, and I work there. And that's obvious. Everybody knows that. And but my fingerprints on the windows, because I clean them on the register, because I work there and I deal with the money, and on the safe. And why would I break into the window when I got the keys, man? So, yeah, that's some good times, man. So, you're always, it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but really I think you're guilty until proven innocent. So, I sat in jail for a long time, and, until I was released. They actually found the guy that robbed it, because he robbed another place, got caught. Turns out it's somebody, that we all knew. And so he actually confessed to robbing that store, because he figured he was already going away for robbery, and he'd get me out of there. And but yeah, that's another story. We got lots of stories, don't we?
Yeah. Well, what I'd like to propose is a season 2 to all this, where this will be part of the
I would love it, man. Yeah, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, then it would just be, I'll prepare some questions around each podcast, each episode, and we can take a bit of a deeper dive. And what you remember, you remember.
Yeah. Exactly, man. Yeah, that would be great, man. I'll do all that I can, and I just want to thank you, and again, thank our listeners for making my dream come true and making this all possible.
Well, I think for time's sake, we can leave it here.
Yes.
If you're into now that we're in contact, let's leave the good stuff for season 2, and
exactly.
And we'll just maybe we'll go 10 more episodes and break down each chapter of your book, of your story.
It really sounds good. Another 10 episodes. We're on 10 platforms, and we're open to sponsors, ads, commercials, and just the support that we received from our fans, from our followers, our listeners, our views. And I hope everybody stays tuned. There's so much more to come. And again, thank you.
And then do you, just one more thing before we go, you turned to art right around, and maybe we'll get into this in season 2, but you turned to art around the time your mom passed away, and she was an artist herself.
That is so true. When my mom passed, I never lifted a paintbrush in my life, and I started painting then, and that'll be a great story again. We have so many more. Well,
if people want to find out more about your art or anything else that you've done, or that is there a place or something they can look up, or a key term to search?
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, if you look at Gringo Loco or Sean Balin, we're on 10 different platforms. If you can mention those later, John, I appreciate it. Right off the top of my head, of course, YouTube and TikTok, Instagram, iTunes, podcast. And there's so many more, and I want you to mention all their names because I appreciate them for having us on their platforms, and I invite more platforms to come. And so hard work. I really appreciate you getting that out there.
Well, I think it's amazing that for a guy who barely had a cell phone, who never got on the internet.
That up, and there it is.
Sorry, I think we got a bit of a delay.
What's that?
Sorry if I interrupted you.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
no, please continue. I'm sorry.
For a guy who never really, like, I remember when phones were coming out, internet, and we're working email. You never had any of that. So now to hear you say things like TikTok and Instagram, it's so much fun. So, well, now you know Zoom.
And YouTube.
And YouTube. Yeah, there you go. So what I'll do is make sure that
Zoom. I really appreciate Zoom.
We'll make sure we put everything in the show notes so people can find you, and then you'll keep updating. I know your kids are helping you, but get your artwork out there. You've shared some poetry with me recently, and this story. So I'm looking forward to continuing our friendship and this little project together. Hopefully it turns into something big.
I do as well. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thanks for letting me catch up to you, and we'll get this up.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks to everybody for listening to season 1 of True Story, a podcast about Gringo Loco, and we look forward to sharing more and more with you as the future brings it.
Okay, my man. Well, thank you again for having me, and everybody for listening.
Well, there you have it. You got to hear that from the man himself. More than 40 years after where we started with episode 1. And as you heard, we'll look into keeping this going. We're going to do a season 2 and talk a lot about each episode in more detail, and maybe get to know more about who these characters like the bread man, the meat man, Johnny, Dean, some of these other guys, who they were and where they might be now, or what he thinks they might be doing, or maybe even we'll find out who they really were. I'm not sure we'll get that far, but we'll give it a shot. All right, so I hope you enjoyed season 1. I'm really glad this worked out. It's certainly evolved in a way I didn't expect, and I look forward to season 2 with Sean every week, starting probably in the summer 2021. In the meantime, Sean, our Gringo Loco, has a TikTok account at Sean Balin 15. We have the Gringo Loco pad on Instagram. And of course, the podcast is available wherever podcasts are heard.